You might ask yourself, why does life feel so hard? Why are my friends upset with me? Why does my relationship with my romantic partner feel like it's constantly in conflict? Why are the romantic partners I choose always displaying the same toxic patterns? Oh, it's because life is unfair. It's because my friends don't understand me. It's because all women are the same, or it's because all men are the same. So you asked your questions and you got some answers. But you didn't get the truth. All you got were some answers, and that was enough to satisfy you and end your inquiry right there. So now you have a notion of what the answer to your question is, and that's enough to satisfy you. Even though you didn't fully contemplate if the answers that you came up with were grounded in the truth. All you did was come up with an answer. And this is a pattern that unconsciousness constantly presents us with in our life. We search for answers without actually taking adequate time and energy to contemplate if those answers that we're coming up with are the truth. And this is very important because in order to solve the problems, we need to come up with true answers. That is where we find solutions. But we don't tend to care about that as much. And this is because if we come up with answers that are self-serving, we can point the finger, we can dismiss the responsibility elsewhere. Oh, it's because of the fact that all women are so terrible that I can't find myself a good woman. When in reality, if you keep finding yourselves in relationships with people who exhibit the same toxic behaviors, it's because you are an energetic match to those behaviors in one way or another. There is something attracting you, and that points you towards unhealed trauma. It points you towards something that you can actually do to work on yourself to solve that problem, so that you don't even feel the desire to choose those partners anymore. You recognize the red flags right away and you start having better boundaries with yourself. Recognize that the false answer that we come up with, oh, it's because everybody else is so toxic, it's because all men are terrible, or it's because all women are terrible, it dismisses any responsibility on ourselves, which is very self-serving. It can't possibly be something that we're doing, right? That's threatening to us. But in reality, it usually is something that you're doing, right? The conflict in your life, the problems that you're facing, usually you have a role to play. And even if you don't, you still have a means of solving your problems. But when you're looking for answers without looking for the truth, you're getting yourself further away from being solution-oriented to problems and deeper into self-deception. And the reality is that contemplating the truth in any situation that presents some conflict tends to be difficult. It's emotionally taxing and it's threatening to your ego structure to recognize where you have a responsibility in causing whatever problems you're facing in your life. So it's much easier to just hold on to whatever narrative that your mind spins first about why the problems are there, and then you hold on to that because it's quicker, it takes less effort, and it's more self-serving, less threatening to your own ego structure. It dismisses the problem onto the external world. Now, as I've been saying, the problem there is that, number one, it's just self-deceptive, it's not true, and you're accepting that as your reality. And number two, it doesn't actually serve you in the long run because you stop yourself from being in the driver's seat of finding the solution. Because if the problem is in the external world, you can't do anything to change it. But when you recognize that you have a role to play in the issues that you're causing in your life, then you have a means of changing it because you can change the role that you're playing. You can start to recognize that you're not as happy as you could be, not because of your boss, not because of your romantic partner, but because you're complacent and you're holding on to a job that you kind of like, but you don't really care about. It doesn't speak to your soul. And you don't communicate the issues that you're having. You don't communicate when something that your partner did starts to yield a little bit of resentment. That's not an answer that a lot of people come up with when they contemplate why they're not so happy in life. They usually point to the fact that, oh, the economy is not the greatest right now because our government is irresponsible with their spending. And my boss sucks, but I gotta make money, so that's just the way it is. That is the answer that your mind yields very quickly that is self-serving. You blame others. You blame the government. You blame your boss. You don't blame your lack of communication in your home life and your lack of courage to go out and build a life that you really, really love living. So it's very important whenever we're contemplating any issues in our life. It can be so easy to simply settle for one of the first few things we come up with, one of the first few answers our mind comes up with when contemplating issues. But oftentimes those first few things that our mind is going to come up with are going to be false, self-deceptive, and self-serving. Now, the more self-aware you are, the more you're probably going to come up with accurate answers, and you're going to realize, oh, I have a lot to do with this. But chances are, even if you're very self-aware, your mind is going to try to spin a self-serving narrative at least once or twice before you really crack that nut and start to get at the truth of the matter. If you can't land on the truth, you're not going to be able to get to the roots of your problems. So it's very, very, very important that you search for the truth and not just for an answer. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more content like this. And be sure to check out the links in the description below. If you wanted to book a free coaching call with me, there's a booking link in the description. And there's also a link to a resource that I made for you guys. It is very helpful. I personally use it. It is a life audit workbook. So be sure to check that out as well if that sounds interesting. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.